Hello, you're welcome to another Berardi and Coke. Bit of a different one to the last one we were on, Gilly, I think. Um, so we'll get it going now when I get my act together here and get this intro.
Hi, this is Don Matteo, and you are listening to the Ought to Know Better podcast. Let's do this.
Leeds are shit.
We're recording, you know.
Oh, shit.
We're the good staff. I don't think we've got the personnel.
You can fucking laugh all you want, you absolute fella.
I think about things. That's why you lot are idiots.
A melted version of a dick that's been shrink wrapped.
The absolute elite shithousery of this.
Yeah, the shithousery of a certain man in the middle is something we might discuss in a little bit. How are you doing this morning, Gilly? You all right?
Yeah, well, it's afternoon, but, could be worse.
Well, okay. How are you doing this afternoon, Gilly? You all right?
Loving life.
Good.
Hating football.
Good. Yeah. I think that's the general consensus on this Sunday morning.
And it is the 1st of December, so Whamageddon has started, so, avoid it as long as you can.
Yeah, and if you're putting up a Christmas tree on the 1st of December, that's still too early.
Mine's going up this afternoon. That's the problem.
Oh, shit.
I have held out until I did tell Scoff because I was saying I were prepping, we're moving living room around and doing whatever else, and he said no, absolutely far too. I said I'm prepping an area for it. No, it's far too early. So I said right, fuck you then. I'm putting it all up today just to wind you up.
Oh,
so I didn't actually get around to it all. It is going up today. It is December.
So you're going to blast pictures all over social media now to wind a few people up.
Well, you might as well not bother if you're not going to show it off.
Well, that is very true. I do show off my Bielsa star at the top of the tree every Christmas. So
that's it.
May as well. We'll get into the game yesterday, Gilly. I don't know if it was fortunate enough or unfortunate enough, but I got a kind of a last minute ticket to it. The bar.
Did you get beer?
No, I see. Yeah, the bar closed. We were outside having a beer, went inside, and then the bar shut because the cash machines the card machines went down. Yeah, so it was a stadium-wide thing apparently. Like, it had nothing to do with the fact that Leeds had 7,500 people.
They showed it on the international radio. You can see the pictures on international radio because apparently they reopened them at about 20-25 minutes in, and there was a mass exodus out of the stand. You could see everybody leaving.
Yeah, that was about right. I contemplated it myself going off that first 20-25 minutes. God. So yeah, there was that. So I was at the game. Obviously, you know yourself from going to games and watching them on TV, they can look a whole lot different. So maybe if you wouldn't mind giving me your opinion on yesterday, Gilly, and just let me know overall what you thought of the team selection, and if you want to move on to the dubious penalty.
So I think the team selection. So Melia is going to start every game he's available for. I think they were fairly straightforward back four. Bogle was always going to start. I think the two centre backs were always going to start, and Firpo were always going to come in because Byram had a bit of a niggle and was unavailable, wasn't he? So I think that picked itself. Rothwell and Tanaka, well, who else is going to play there? So very few question marks over that bit. James and Nonto, I think, is fair. Solomon had played quite well, but he has said that he wants to rotate his wingers, so I think that was expected. And they're all playing at a fairly decent level at the moment, so I don't think that James and Nonto is in any way kind of an issue. Which brings us on to the issue. And that is, it is 100% time to admit that the Arrington project has failed completely. It's time to bin him off, not just drop him, shoot him, melt him down for glue. Just get rid. It's not working. He's not a footballer. It's time he was gone. Pirro up front was ineffectual. But I think when we've had the debate quite a bit. If you start, it was working. If you were starting Joseph up front to bring your pro on, it was working, and that's the frustrating thing. Is we've kind of stuttered since. But ultimately, all Arrington brings you is energy, and you can get that energy from Joseph. So you can play somebody else in the middle that might not do the pressing and might not do the headless chicken in running around. We saw Nonto move into the middle. We saw Solomon move into the middle. Ramazani had a bit of time in there. They all did better than Arrington did in there. So let's just do that. I think that you do need to look at who's going to play in the 9 if you're going to drop Arrington, because Pirot's not going to do that job, but Joseph will. So I think that if you are going to do, as always, 70 to 72 minutes before making a change, you do that period with Joseph, and you do that with somebody that's capable with a football behind Joseph, behind the 9. It wasn't all down to Arrington that we didn't play well yesterday. There were quite a few people off the ball. I think you and I called Smarty out for his hatred of Tanaka, but he doesn't hate Tanaka. He did pass comment on him, and I said, "Ooh, he's a popular boy at the moment. It's a bit dangerous." But I think it showed that when he has an off day, we don't tick. He's become so important to us already, and he had an off day, and it's not all down to one incident at all. That I'm saying that he's set a very high bar, and therefore it's immediately obvious if he doesn't attain that high bar. He's played so well for us up to now. I think it would be awful to call him out, because it's natural that there's going to be peaks and troughs in performance, especially coming brand new into a side, into a club, into a country. In all, we just didn't seem to get going. Passing was poor. The play wasn't crisp. I think if you look at, we named the back four, or I named the back four, and I think from a perspective of looking at the personnel, it pretty much picked itself. My issue with it was there were large. Rodon aside, because I thought Rodon did okay. He did what Rodon does. He's quick. He snuffs out danger. He's not the best passer of a ball, but he carries it out okay. He tends to run out of ideas when he gets into midfield with it. He's not Ben White. But if you look at the passing of Firpo and Bogle, and especially Strike, it was so off. And that almost seemed to set the tone. I mentioned Tanaka. I thought Rothwell did okay. But the passing all over the place was fairly poor. All that said, I think it's a very, very different game if Nonto finishes one of those chances that he had. The one where he picked the pocket of a defender and then didn't finish it. Keeper made a decent save. I mean, for me, keeper were man at match again. So what odds on him scoring an own goal and conceding 4 again next time out?
He's going to have an absolute stinker next time, we know.
Yeah, he uses all of his form against us, it seems, doesn't it? And then you can touch on the managers as well. It does seem as though he's got a bit of a hoodoo over us, doesn't it? John Eustace. He seems to know what... He seems to have Farker's number, almost. So on balance, I think it's really difficult, especially if you consider some of the chances that they spurned. They hit the bar in the first half. 2 very, very, very easy chances, completely spurned by Cantwell in the second half.
The crossbar as well, from a corner.
I did say that. They hit the bar in the first half, and then Cantwell missed those 2 glaring chances in the second half. And you're thinking, actually, that could have been 2 or 3 to them, albeit we could have scored a couple. I don't think, on balance of the overall game, I don't think it was particularly bad in terms of the result. I don't think it was too wrong in terms of a result. And while I'm on the mic, and I'll come back to you for your match day presence opinion, this is the momentum. It looks like we had all the ball. It looks like we had all the play. If you look at the actual possession, we had a significant amount of the ball, but their XG were twice ours.
Yeah.
So it almost plays into that. We know that if we kick on the break and we take advantage, let them have the ball, and we take advantage of it and be direct and get at them when we win the ball, much like Millwall did, it looks like we're in a position where they're able to take advantage of us. So go on, give us the in-person match day experience.
Well, I was kind of to the left behind the goal. I was directly in front of where the penalty was given. But overall, I thought our display was very abject. I thought the lack of movement in front of the centre backs was surprisingly shocking, considering how we talked about it on Thursday regarding the movement being pretty fluid off the ball on Wednesday against Luton. It was like chalk and cheese there on Saturday yesterday. Now, where I was sitting was quite similar to where I'd sit in the south stand, and the same view as well, you know. And the movement just wasn't there. There was nothing in front of the centre backs. I know you mentioned that Strike's passing was a little off and that's a fair assessment to make. But I also think you have to look at the movement in front of him. The passes he was trying to make were passes that he was forced to make rather than ones that he wanted to make. And you got to look at that side of things as well. I think Dan James yesterday was very disappointing for me because he didn't look to try and beat his man. There was maybe one or two times in the first half where he got on the overlap, but there was a lot of it where it was played into his feet and he didn't seem like he had confidence to try and knock it past their fullback. And I don't know if that was something that he was maybe told to do or whatever the case may be, but he was very disappointing for me yesterday. And I thought with Rodon, you mentioned in there his driving out, it was very good in spells yesterday. He got up to nearly the final third with one or two particular runs. But again, when he got that far, there was no movement ahead of him for him to play any kind of decisive ball. He got to a point, he must have maybe only been about 10 or 12 yards outside their 18-yard box on the right-hand side as we're playing. And there was 4 players there, all stood in a line, and none of them made the run, or none of them had a bit of movement off him. And I was just looking, I was like, if anything's going to happen, it's going to be because we have had the ball turned over really quickly, because there's been no options there for him to play it away. Pirro, look, I praise Pirro when he does well, and I'll do it for any Leeds player that puts on the shirt. But his output is shocking. I know Aronson was there, and you said a lot of energy, a lot of this and that, and his output is absolutely shocking in terms of, I wouldn't even say to closing down players. I think just in general, man, he was getting on the ball a bit, and he was trying to, you know, hold the ball up and take players into the game or whatever, but anything he did, it looked like he was wearing pudding on his feet. You know what I mean? He couldn't do anything. And I know I'm probably being hypercritical of him now at the moment, like, but when you're looking at him and he's starting and he's the guy that's scoring, but then when he plays like that, you can't see how he's going to score because he's not doing anything to put himself in positions to do that.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating as a fan base to watch. Like, there was a lot of lads around me yesterday in the second half when we had opportunities, and they were just like, there was a lot of Pirro, make a run. Pirro, look, what are you doing there? Let it go earlier. And the same goes for Aronson. Like I said on Wednesday that we were looking at Aronson going, geez, he's kind of matured a bit now. He's getting on the ball and he's letting it go fairly quickly because he sees that there's runs. Again, we can say he got dispossessed a lot yesterday. But at the same time, I've criticised the midfield for not running off for the centre-backs to make the runs to receive the ball in positive areas or in space. You could kind of say the same for Aronson when he gets on the ball yesterday, because he was taking so much out of it yesterday. Maybe it was because the runs weren't being made. I'm not justifying his poor performance, and I'm not taking away what, you know, from what you said either. Like, I think maybe a rest and a bit of, you know, a shoe in the arse to sort of say, look, right, you need to kind of get it together a bit. It wouldn't do him any harm. But I think yesterday that you have to look at the whole 11 and kind of go, right, okay, from back to front we were terrible yesterday. Whether it be Strike, you know, misplacing passes, but then you put that down to the runs not being made for him in front, and it works itself all the way to the front line. So from back to front, you couldn't really praise anyone yesterday.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just on strike. So if you look at his passing stats, he didn't lose the ball that much. I think the problem was he didn't do anything. And I think if you consider, so he's wearing the armband. If people aren't making the runs for him to pick out and for him to play to, shouldn't he then be doing something about that? He's the voice. You don't have to be wearing the armband to be a leader. Recognise that, but he should be like the sergeant on the pitch to the general on the sidelines, and he should be the one that's making things happen and changing the approach. If the game plan is to do exactly what we did, then that's on Farke. I don't believe that can be. So if it's movement, if it's the fact that people are too static, he needs to be tearing strips off them. He needs to be having a go at them. If you consider the centre back captains over the years that have had success, none of them would have put up with that. They'd have all gone and torn strips out of people. And I'm not digging him out in any way for that specific element. I think he is a quieter captain. He's not one that he's going to shout and yell and whatever else. But he's still got to impress his take and his view. If the centre backs are going, look, there's no movement in front of us, he needs to tell people where to go. He needs to tell them what to do. If they're not moving around, move them, make them.
Yeah, I did. To be fair, I did see I think he's the assistant coach under Farke. He was out on the sideline on more than one or two occasions, and he was giving them absolute hell in midfield. And I imagine that's what he was doing because he was like this. You know what I mean? So obviously switch it up a bit more. Where's the movement? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you kind of look at that and yeah, I understand what you're saying about Pascal. Maybe he was doing it, but how much can he say without him starting to get on the tits of all his teammates? You know what I mean?
It shouldn't matter though, should it? He's there to do that job.
But it also kind of looks at like the way we're meant to play. How like he can only say so much if they're given instructions on how to play. If the movement isn't there in front of him, he can give people shit. But if they're being instructed to play a certain way, then the movement in front of him isn't his fucking fault that he can't, continuously go at them. I know what you're saying as well from a captain's point of view. He should be. Maybe the odd occasion where he was reason because he's been told to play a certain way against a certain team with the style of play, I don't know if they were very good yesterday or we were just very bad.
I don't think they were particularly good, but I don't think they needed to do much to be in the game. That's the problem. Yeah. You mentioned about it being different in terms of a B&C to Luton. We were so in control against Luton. We were so on it. You mentioned about the movement being good, but the passes were crisp. And they were into feet, but they meant it, and it was a touch, and it was gone, and we were really difficult to deal with, and it felt like we just played into Blackburn's hands. We had the ball, but we didn't hurt them, we didn't get at them. None to our side with those couple of chances. It didn't feel like we really brought any jeopardy into the game. It felt quite safe for them.
Yeah, I think even though Nanto had a good chance. There was one or two other kind of good efforts on goal. I don't think they were ever anything that they kind of, like you said there, that they didn't really have anything to fear when we were going at them because we seemed to just run out of ideas. I think bringing Ramazani on and playing him in the 10 was, for me, has been Farke's most stupid decision to date. He
did take his finish particularly well. Now, albeit it was already offside. Whether he knew that or not, I don't know. But that finish off the underside of the bar at a tight angle he took that pretty well. To be fair to him, but that's an isolated incident. I think on balance, I think you are right.
Yeah, I think just bringing him off or bringing Nanto off and Ramazani on, and then bringing bleeding Aronson off and putting Solomon on. I think. You put Nanto in the middle and Dan James needed to come off. Nanto needed to go on the 10. You put Largy on the right where he's more accustomed to. He's far, far more dangerous on the wing than he is playing down the middle. And I think that probably should have been the way it went yesterday rather than how it went. I thought Nanto was doing okay. I thought he was influencing the game enough to be left on for me. And I know we discussed that Fark mentioned he doesn't like playing as wingers for a full 90 minutes, but I think at some point there has to be an exception to the rule where you know that what you're doing is going to be arse over tit. And it's like when it starts being pointed out quite regularly, I think it's not time to worry by any means at all. But it's definitely a point at which you could start questioning why these decisions are being made, and we can see what a more positive thing might be.
Yeah, and equally, although he said about that, he did say that about the wingers. Dan James played the full 90.
Yeah,
so it's not like he didn't leave any of the wingers on. Yeah, so I think I get your point on Ramazani, but they did swap around quite a lot. They didn't remain static. Pirro had been largely ineffective. Bamford over Joseph? Was that a surprise?
A little bit. I don't think I was overly surprised by it. I thought eventually that's going to start happening if the goals aren't coming from either of the two boys. And like, I know people have their qualms with Bamford or whatever, but he'll always come on and put in a good shift. He always comes on and tries to. I'm not saying the other boys don't try, but sometimes tried and tested is sometimes the best way to go when you're struggling like that. And it could be a confidence thing with Joseph. We've seen when he's come on in the last couple of games where he's kind of just trotted around the place rather than being the energetic kind of bully front man that we've kind of become accustomed to over the last 16 games or so. So it's difficult. Like, if I'm being perfectly honest, I could probably see him starting Bamford on Saturday against Derby County.
I mean, you think about Derby. I think that will be more inclined to be a Luton game than it is a Blackburn game. Not only is it against a poor side, whereas Blackburn have been up and down. They've got a performance in them, but equally, John Eustace is a good coach.
Yeah.
You look at Derby. The fact that we were away against Blackburn, that we were at home against Luton. I think there is an element of I'll go into that game fully expecting us to win it and win it quite comfortably. I think it's difficult though, isn't it? Because it's the away performances, the Millwall, the Blackburn. It's the away performances where we're struggling. And if you go away from home and you get a draw, and then you bring a side back to Ellen Road and you beat them, invariably you're going to get enough points to go up. But when we're losing out against Ainsley Pears and John Eustace regularly, that's when it becomes an issue. And I think there's an argument that says that they were very, very lucky to finish with 11 on the pitch. I think Tyrese Dolan could have been sent off twice.
Yes. I was going to get into that, yeah.
The comment there about Todd Cantwell had no business being that good. I thought he was really poor. He dispatched his penalty well. I thought he was really poor. I was watching him and I was thinking, would you improve us? Now, there's an argument that says he's better than Aronson. There's an argument that says that you're better than Aronson, so that's not much of an argument. But I'm really glad that we didn't sign him. I'm really glad we didn't sign him because we were linked for a time, weren't we? And I don't know if that was just laziness in terms of, well, he's played for Parker before, so obviously he's going to be in for him. I don't know. But if you look at their lineup, I don't think, other than Pears, I don't think there's anybody that made a strong statement to say that they're good enough for us to go, do you know what, I'd have them and I'd start them. I don't think there's anybody there.
The only lad that I would probably say that's got quite good potential is that Nolan. He got man of the match yesterday, or is it Dolan? Dolan or Nolan? He's the lad that.
I thought it was Pears that got man at match. Was it Dolan?
Well, the stadium announcer said it was your man, so it's probably the.
SofaScore gave it to Pears, but they do their own, don't they? So
yeah,
I didn't realise that.
So yeah, he got like watching him. He's very quick feet, but then again, we've got Ramazani. Like we've seen how quick his feet are at the moment. Like so, Ramazani is definitely a level up because he's played in top league in Spain. He's scored twice at the Burnabout, like, you know what I mean? So there is a level between them. But he'd be the only one, Nolan, now that I'd probably take out of all their squad, to be honest with you. And that's not saying that they haven't got good players, but they haven't got players that I saw would potentially add to ours, bar him.
Yeah.
That's just an honest opinion. It's not something that I'm saying just to be controversial, or if there's any Blackburn. I think there might be a Blackburn fan watching.
Yeah, I think you start.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
So it's not anything like that. I just think that's, you look at players in other teams and you go, geez, he'd be all right for us in our system, considering how, you know, he is in their system, and it's not even near attacking as ours or whatever, you know. He'd probably be the only one, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think if you look at our subs, so there's a couple of people saying that Gilavogi should have come on. Why did we leave on Bogle and Firpo and Strike if they were playing poorly? Or Bogle and Firpo, I think Bryn was asking. I think the issue that you've got is there's very little on the bench. You know, if you're looking at fullbacks, well, the only one really is Verba that was on the bench yesterday, unless you're going to play De Bayo, and they're both centre backs. Yeah. So if you're trying to attack a team because you're a goal down, we don't have much. You know, I think Byram had a knock. Schmidt's had a hernia op, hasn't he? So he's not available either. And you know, you look at the bench. Yes, all right. Albeit we had Bamford, who's been a Premier League goal scorer. Whatever you think of him now, he's been at that level and he's had a good season. He had a good season before that. Joseph's got a big future, we think, but largely in the first team at least until this season, unproven, because he'd only started one game, and that was Chelsea in the Cup. He'd not started a league game. Solomon and Ramazani, yeah, they've got some pedigree, but beyond that, you've got Darlow, you've got De Bayo, you've got Crew. Gilavogi is not an attacking player, so you can bring him on if you're a goal up or 2 goals up. You can bring him on, and he's definitely going to make a difference in terms of the strength of the midfield. Yeah. He doesn't seem to be one of those that's going to grab a game by the scruff of its neck and drive the side on and force us over the line to a result that otherwise we wouldn't have got. And that's about it. So in terms of the squad, it's very difficult on the match day to make, albeit I think he should have been making changes. I think he should have made some changes earlier. But ultimately, Aronson on for 70 minutes when he's offered nothing for 7 games. That for me is that's the thing that needs to happen. Is he needs to be more critical of himself and his players. And I recognise that he wants to stand behind his players and he wants to say, you know, you're my guy, fine. And then when you're in a game, I think there's an element of he goes into the second half and leaves it as it is because he wants to give the players the opportunity to fix the mistakes that have gone in the first half. But for me, if the shape of it hasn't changed in the first 5 minutes and you get to 55 minutes and actually there's no difference in the game, make the change then. Don't wait another 15 minutes and only give 20 minutes left to the players that you're bringing on to try to make a change. I know that we've spoken at length about the lineup, about the subs that he makes and so on, but it remains a frustration because we cannot see it.
Yeah, and that is a frustration because there's points at which, like yesterday, I'd have hooked Pirro off at bleeding half time, honestly, and just either, you know, if you live and die by your convictions. If he's going to play Bamford for 7 minutes, play him for 45. You know, what's the point? Like you said there earlier, what's the point in bringing him on if he's only going to get 7 or 8 minutes? He's not going to be able to influence a game in 7 or 8 minutes. Even 20 minutes is still difficult for a player to try and really, really influence a game. So I think he needs to start being a bit more cutthroat and not kind of looking at it going, I'll give him another 10 minutes. He might, you know, there might be a spark there. No. You've had 45 of the 90 minutes to find that spark. Just, you're off. Bamford, you're on, or Joseph, or whoever. But I think sometimes half-time substitutions can really rattle a team that you're playing against, because they're kind of like, right, okay, we need to, like, they probably wouldn't have trained for coming up against Patrick Bamford. They'd have trained for coming up against the likes of Pirro, who's not going to press them high. He's not going to, you know, he's not going to be that pain in the arse that all defenders don't, you know, they don't look forward to it, like, you know. But if
Yeah.
you give Bamford a little bit longer, like Bamford's a completely different player to Joseph and to Pirro. In the kind of way he does things, but at the same time they're all very similar. Like, Pirro and Joseph do everything Bamford does, but then Bamford has that little bit more, which is probably his experience more so than anything else, really. But he needs to start giving players more time to influence games.
Yeah.
I think 60 minutes, half an hour is probably a good time to start making them, but half time I'd like to see one or two. If it's not working and everyone can see it's not working, just hook the players off that aren't doing it. It's that simple. Be ruthless.
I agree, and I think experience counts for a lot, especially when you've got such a young team. The average 11's 25, and it has been for weeks. Now that's not going to be significantly changed when Ampadu comes back because he's 24. I know he's the captain and he seems like he's got a wealth of experience, but he's 24. He'll come in probably for Rothwell. Yeah. So when you're considering the age of the side, I think a bit of experience, and that's actually one of the things that Gilavogi does bring is that experience in it. But Rothwell's 29, so obviously you're putting him out to pasture. He's over the hill already, isn't he? But bringing that experience on, because he is more experienced than Pirro, vastly more experienced than Joseph. But equally, in the back of the mind, I think you are right in the point that I think you were making is if Pirro starts, Joseph's going to have it in the back. I'll be coming on at 70 minutes. Well, okay, but if you come on and you don't do very much, Pirro's going to start the next game. But actually, if you don't come on at all because Bamford's given the nod, next time he knows, right, I know I've got to make a difference.
Yeah.
And that it's that doubt. Nonto is a player that if he doesn't have anybody pushing him for his position, sometimes goes off the boil. We saw that previously, and I think that when Dan James was injured, Nonto were a bit off the boil. When Somerville was on one side and Nonto were on the other, and you think, well, Somerville's pretty much undroppable, and Rutter's playing through the middle, so there's two players there going for one position. Dan James got himself injured, Nonto went off the boil a bit. Dan James came back, Nonto were on fire.
Yeah,
it's mad, it is, and it's one of those where they have to be pushed for the position. I think one of the biggest problems Mellier's got is that nobody takes seriously the backup that we've got.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, none of us do, man, do we?
He's pretty much guaranteed to start. I said right at the top of the podcast when we were talking about the lineup, it picks itself at the back. Now it picks itself at the back because we've got no realistic backup to Rodon and Stroik because Verbe's not it. And at the moment, with no Schmidt and no Byram, it's Verpo and Bogle, and there's nobody else unless you look into youth. So it is difficult, and I think that genuinely, professional footballers who've got to where they've got by being better than the people around them, because otherwise you don't get picked to play for top flight or big clubs.
Yeah.
So the only reason they get to the top of their game is by being better than everybody around them and everybody they're playing against. And the only way you can do that is being pushed by the people that you're training with, training against, playing against. And if you are not in a position where your position is in jeopardy, it's not driving you on. It's not pushing you to that. And they really need that. And that's, I get into it with Brain and few others on the principle that I think the 49ers massively fucked up this season. They've made us much weaker. And there's comments of, our ceiling's not quite so high, but our basement's been raised. So, the average is about the same or slightly better. But there's very little bit. We had 2-3 kids on the bench yesterday. And that's, you don't have that experience and that depth to bring on. Yes, we were able to make some changes, but realistically, they're the only changes that we were looking for. And then when you're talking about experience and you're talking about leadership, if Stroik isn't playing, Mellier's your captain because Ampadu's injured and the two vice captains. And not only do I think that Mellier's not really the leader, I don't really rate keepers being captains anyway. I know that there are notable exceptions, Oliver Kahn being a very, very obvious one. Schmeichel was a decent captain when he had armband on. Yeah. But I don't really rate keepers being captains. For me, it should be a centre-back or a push, a central midfielder, but it should be a centre-back. The game happens in front of them. They can see everything that's going on, but they need to impress themselves on the game, and that's really where Strike falls short for me. He's a good player when he wears the armband. I think it improves him as a player. It almost gives him that confidence to go and express himself, but he doesn't impress himself on his colleagues enough.
Yeah, I get that. That's a very valid point you're making there, man. I just want to touch on one thing that Scooby mentioned here in the comments when we were discussing Bamford. He said, 1 minute's time to move the old guard on, usually when it's going tits up. Then, when they're not there and it's going tits up, you want the old guard back. The thing is, right, we actually have, bar Bamford, moved all the old guard out. Bamford and, say, like, you're not going to call Meslier and Strike old guard in that squad. They've been there the same time as him, length of time essentially as him. But he's the only one there, and like you mentioned earlier, him and Gilavogi are the senior players in that squad. You get rid of him, and you're basically relying on a free agent to be a calming influence within the dressing room, as the older statesman, you know. And I understand. I get what Scooby's saying, and I we are fickle like that. Get rid, keep him, da. But when you've only got one potentially old guard left, there's a reason we didn't want to sell him in the summer, and there's a reason he didn't want to leave. It's, he's on a good wage, but at the same time, he knows that he's the older statesman. He can have an influence in there in that dressing room as well, I think some of the lashing he gets is a bit heavy, but, it is what it is, I guess.
The death threats were definitely a bit far.
Jesus Christ, yeah. Anyone who did that, you're an absolute cabbage. So I just.
Can you believe he's 31 though, Bamford?
Yeah.
I would have guessed 29. He's 31.
Yeah. He's only, 3 years younger than Gilavogi, so.
Yeah.
You need someone like that in the squad, considering our average age in our game
it needs to be a mix.
Gilavogi coming on was 22 and a half or something like that, you know what I mean? So it's someone with a bit more of a head on them in certain scenarios. I'm just going to go through a few of the comments here. So we've got Easy B. How you doing, Easy? Content providers are telling Leeds fans that Farke is the guy to get us promoted, and all Farke out brigade show up after defeat. Wake up and smell the coffee. Farke can't change.
I don't know the point he's making there. Is he saying that we can't change him because he is the guy to get us promoted, or is he saying that he's too stuck in his ways and he can't change and therefore we need to replace him?
I think it's what you're saying, the second part of what you said, but I don't know if he's on about getting rid of Farke. He's just... I mean,
ultimately, the first line is a problem in itself, and content providers are telling Leeds fans. Ultimately, content providers know fuck all, and I include us in that.
I don't tell anyone what to think regarding a manager. I just give my stupid opinion on a podcast, and people can make what they want out of that. But I get your point, Nige, man. Yeah, it's or Easy. It's a bit of a tough one there for Farke. You know what I mean? He's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. Start this player, starts that player. Don't start him again. Play him
not like that.
In this position. Not like that. It's like the transfer window. Oh no, we need a centre back. No, not him. Not him. With 400 fucking games of experience behind him in the top flight in Spain and England or something like that. We've got Nige D in the comments here. How are you, Nige? Why are some people surprised by results like yesterday? Eustace 3, Farke 0 says it all. He hasn't learned from last season. Why can't Leeds impose themselves on a game away? I think we've seen scenarios where we have imposed ourselves. I thought Sunderland was a game that was a very free-flowing football match, but there was elements of that where we were quite imposing, I think. You know what I mean? We had them on the back foot. I think you brought up the possession graph for that one, Gilly, and I think we were all quite surprised with how much of the ball we actually did have in that one.
Yeah.
So we can't impose ourselves. I just think, like you say there, Nige, Eustace potentially has Farke worked out. Lampard worked out Bielsa, and no one called for Bielsa to get sacked. They were just like, pick yourselves up, we'll get a win the next time around. It's just that particular manager, blah, blah. So we can say that, but then was anyone crawling for MB's head when he was found out by Lampard 3 times on the trot? You know what I mean? So
He did batter him in Spygate, though, didn't he?
he did. He fucking absolutely lettered him. Like, but that's
I think that finished 2-0. But Adam Forshaw was god on the night. He was completely untouchable. It was strange.
That was it.
But if you look at the last 3 away games that we've had, Blackburn, Millwall, and in between was that Swansea game. And in terms of imposing ourselves, we didn't impose ourselves on the Swansea game.
No.
So we're capable of doing it, but actually at the moment we're not. So for the past month, the away games, yes, all right, we've taken 3 points from 9. And we scored, but we had to score 4 to do it because we didn't impose ourselves on the game. So there's a bit of validity to what Nigel's saying, I think.
Oh no, there is. I'm not dismissing it. Like, I just, it's mad how fickle we can be, because when that happened with Derby and Bielsa, no one was calling for Marcelo's head.
Yeah.
I think this might be the Blackburn fan that was watching.
Go on, try it.
Abu Bakar Fajal. How did I get that one?
No idea.
If you're still
Good effort.
watching, give us a thumbs up, because if you're new to this channel, I'm pretty shit at name pronunciation. So that's just that. So basically, he's come on and he said, unlucky on the loss yesterday. I thought we were good value for the win. Limited Leeds to very few chances. 2 clown errors that Leeds should have pounced on, but we recovered well from it. I think overall that's a fair reflection. He's left out that the ref was an absolute incompetent bellend.
Let's just touch on that while it's here, and maybe he can have his say on this.
Yeah.
You seem to intimate that you don't think that was a penalty.
I'm not convinced it was. When I saw it first, I only saw a replay of it this morning, and first time I saw it, I looked at it and I was like, he's going down before he's even touched there.
Maybe so, but he's
and
still...
from where I was standing, he was definitely on his way down before Tanaka even got near him. He was.
So if that's not Tanaka and that's Firpo, everybody's saying that Firpo's stupid, right?
Well, yeah, but everyone's saying then it's a free kick. But it's a free kick rather than a penalty.
So it was a foul. It's just where it was.
Yeah, I don't think there was enough in it to give a penalty. He was going down.
Well, no, it's either a foul or it's not, and it's either in the box or it's not. It's not about whether there's enough of it to be a penalty. And if contact continues into the box, it's a penalty.
I think that the ref gives, because he was given soft free kicks all day, I think he gives that anywhere on the pitch. But I don't think it's foul enough for a penalty. I don't think there's enough in it.
A foul should be a foul, right? A foul is a foul is a foul. It's not a different threshold for a penalty.
But what I'm saying is the ref was that bad yesterday. He was given fouls for absolutely nothing yesterday. So it's no surprise to me that he gave that foul when it's actually not a foul really in the larger scheme of things, because he was going down already anyway.
It's a stupid challenge.
Yeah, perhaps.
Regardless of what the ref has done, it's a daft thing to do on the corner of your box. And I thought it was a pen. I did think it was a pen.
I'll be honest, it is a silly thing to do.
Part of it needs to be on Strike's shoulders, because he's far, far too passive in play in the build-up to that. And I think that was his. Yeah. But he got nowhere near his man. Absolutely nowhere near him. He was like, you want there. And then it almost feels like Tanaka's got to make a challenge because he's just running free into the box. But it's a poor one. I do think it's soft. I don't think it should be a penalty these days. I don't think that should be a foul these days, but it is.
Yeah, well,
you see him given all over the place.
Yeah, I just think that the ref. I know I'm not trying to excuse our poor performance by blaming the ref, but. He was that was only his 4th ever championship game that he'd refed. He was promoted from League 1 or League 2. And you could it showed big time yesterday that he had no control over the game. Like Bamford I'll give you an example. Bamford getting that treatment in their 18-yard box for 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Why didn't he have to go off the pitch? Why didn't he go off? I'm not complaining that he got to stay on, but.
Is that because
he has to go off the pitch? No, it doesn't matter
he's
either way.
Through for a head injury.
No, but regardless of a head injury, if the medical staff come on, you then have to exit the pitch.
I thought that was no longer true for the. Yeah, I thought that was no longer true when it was a head injury when they brought in the new concussion legislation.
Was it a concussion that he was meant to have had? I don't know.
No,
But-
they make sure it's not, don't they? So he had a bit of claret coming out of the back of his head, didn't he? And he had the old Vaseline and that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not 100% certain where if it's a head injury and they'd need to come on that the player has to go off. But you are fair in that. But the bit that I thought you were meaning, not the medical treatment, but the treatment he were getting from the centre-backs in the build-up to a corner.
Yeah,
Because
that as well.
the ref went, right, stop, and went over and spoke to him twice. And it's like, no, hang on a minute. That's not you handling this situation, because as soon as you step away from him, he's going to do it again. He had his arms round him, he's cuddling him, he's holding him. And it's like, if you've seen that that's an issue and you've gone and spoken to him and then you come away from it and he does it again, book him.
Yeah.
But then, equally, Dolan should have been yellow carded 4 different times. I mean, for me, it could have been a straight red for the tackle. Was it Bogle? No, it was Firpo, wasn't it?
It was on Firpo, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a bad one.
To say he didn't have a fucking clean sight of it, when you look at it from the replay, he's looking directly at it like that. And you're like, can you not see how high his fucking foot is there? It's just above his knee. Any chance? No.
Yeah.
But anyway, dickhead.
And then, the cut and dried of it is, he ran through on goal. It were given offside or there were a free kick, whatever it was. Ran through on goal, and then he was complaining about it, and then he kicked ball into goal. That is straightforward, 100%. That's a booking.
Yeah.
They've all been told that's a booking. He was already on a booking, so he didn't get one. It stinks.
But
I mean, that was a bad one.
The thing was as well, we got a throw in over on the far side from where I was sitting, and their centre back kicked the ball away, and ref wasn't going to do anything, and the whole of the stand that I was in just went, "Oh, he's kicked the ball away," and then he started walking back over to him to book him. So the incompetence of the ref was just shocking. But anyway, it's our bleeding fault as well. So, Paul Atkinson, how are you, Paul? I thought the ref was shocking. Thank you. Was texting my nephew during the game. We both thought the ref stopped our momentum all the time, giving Blackburn free kicks for us touching a Blackburn player. This goes back to my thing about it being a soft penalty, a soft challenge for the man. Any time we got close to a Blackburn player, they'd feel like that, hands anywhere on them, they were going down. It wasn't even like an ailing flop. It was just blatant cheating. But again, the ref bought it, and that's not really our fault. You know what I mean? The refs need to be stronger. He is absolutely pathetic as a referee, and I hope we never get him again. Guaranteed we'll get him after Christmas, or for a fucking Sheffield United away or something like that. Bryn is in the comments. Hold on. Bryn, how are you doing? If we don't pick up 4 points from next 6 aways, I'd be moving on from Fark and getting someone else. Who? Who?
And that's my issue with it. I don't think Farker is our Lord and Saviour by any stretch. I think he's as good as we can get at this level at this point in time. Mm-hmm. I know that there are people out there. I reckon we could go and get John Eustace, and I wouldn't mind that so much. I wouldn't. Yeah. I think he's a better tactician than Farker, even if he doesn't quite have the same level of pedigree. However, I have absolutely no faith in the 49ers doing anything right. The only choices, the only decisions, the only moves they've made off the pitch have been bad. And so I've got no faith in them doing it right. So if you're going to change, don't change for the sake of change. You've got to change for something better. And I'm not having it that they get anyone.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's just a difficult market to try and find someone suitable to come in and do that job. It's crazy. Nige D is in the comments. Nige, how's it going? Why is Fark running Aronson into the ground? He has played virtually all the game minutes so far. Rest him and rotate Fark. I think that's a good point. He's one of the
I don't care
players.
why. Just get rid.
Don't mean it like that. I mean it more along the lines of he is actually playing a lot of football.
Didn't he have flu-like symptoms when he went away with the American team?
Yeah, that's why he didn't go to Mexico for the first game.
So just give him a rest for the next 8 months.
Anyway, moving on from that comment, because Tom, how are you doing, Tom Gatlin? Aronson looked tired and leggy like a few others. 3 games in 6 days, going to do that, Tom. Yeah. I think if Fark is going to start rotating people, he needs to start doing it fairly lively. Because this is going to be a very busy period coming up. We've got Herbert. How you doing, Herbert? Some of my mates weren't too enthusiastic about Firpo coming back in. Honestly, we've all seen how reliable Sam Byram is and has been over the last couple of games. But there's no other option. His legs cannot take 3 games in 6 weeks.
You were injured anyway.
Yeah, but we saw
not even on bench.
Yeah, what game was it we were playing there just before Luton at home? Can't remember. But he was knackered after 70 minutes. Passes. I think it might have been Luton on Wednesday, to be fair. QPR. His passes were going astray. His foot was just getting left in. He was fouling. Stuff like that, you know what I mean? And you can't knock the guy. We've known what his injury history has been like, so we knew what we were getting. But again, you mentioned it earlier, Gilly, we're not blessed with defenders at the moment to challenge the players coming in. The only one that you could have brought in probably would have been Verber, but I don't think Verber's at the point where he'd be starting games yet, you know what I mean?
Not just that, he also hurts us so much in attacking. You know, Farke's teams have to get the fullbacks forward. That's what it's all based upon. That's why Rothwell and especially Tanaka play so deep. Is to release the fullbacks to get forward, and it changes the balance of the entire. Now, don't get me wrong, the balance of the side yesterday wasn't as it should be. It wasn't good enough, but it upsets these entire approach to the game to our fullbacks that aren't as attacking. That's why we've gone and got Bogle. We know. I mean, I know that you've dug him out. You can't stand him, but we know that Bogle isn't the best defensively. Let's say that, but he's expected to add more in attack. Firpo's the same. You know, Firpo's going to get assists. He's going to get a couple of goals. He's not somebody that is an outstanding defender primarily. He's an attacker. They are expected to attack more. That's why Tanaka plays so deep. So playing Verber there, you're not going to get the same. But people were digging Byram out before those 2 games, saying, "Well, he's not going to offer us what Firpo does," and then he scored and he's getting forward. But Verber's not. He's just not that player.
The only way I can see Verber coming in and starting is if we're playing a back 3 and he's the left-sided kind of centre-back, left-back type effort where the impetus isn't on him to go forward because we're flooding the midfield with attackers and holding midfielder in the middle, you know. So maybe that's the only way that Verber actually gets back in at some point.
It's like playing strike at left-back, isn't it? Or like, you know, there were times we played Cooper at left-back. They're not left-backs. No. Because full-backs aren't defenders, which seems really weird to say. But fullbacks are a hybrid role these days, and they're expected to do as much attacking as defending. And if you're playing a centre-back there, you don't get that from them.
No, you do not, no. We have Paul Brennan. How are you, Paul? Good to see you again, man. On the 7th of December 1997, we lost our greatest player of all time, legendary Billy Bremner, number 4. So, for me, the lads have to put on a first-class performance. Billy Bremner would be proud of. I think he's referencing the game on Saturday against Derby County. I think that goes without saying, Paul. It's a very good point. They need to start pulling their socks up, and literally Willie could do it, pulling his socks up. Like they're not even there. Nige is in the comments again. If the 49ers want to stay with Fark, give him help with the new coaches in certain areas. Do Leeds have a director of football? We had 3 people doing the kind of director of football role with the scouts and that, but I think...
is Nick Hammond still at the club?
Nick Hammond is still there.
I seem to remember he went.
Greta Steinson is gone to 49ers Enterprise Global Football. So I'm assuming he's not completely out of the picture when it comes to spotting talent that we could potentially snap up. So maybe it's just a wider
because I know
spread
Nick
role.
Hammond was brought in expected to be temporarily, wasn't it? But I can't remember whether he's still there or not.
No. As far as I'm aware, he is. And the guy from the academy has now been promoted to that role now as well, to kind of head of scouting with them. So fingers crossed. Look, they might have to do something in January. Hopefully they've got a plan in place. We'll see what happens. So there's one there that is starred, and it's directed at you, Gilly, but we'll leave that. I want to come on to that point last before we finish up, just so we can get your opinion on that one. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
Sound. Scooby is here again. I feel you're stuck on the point that captain is a sergeant major who shouts and bowls. Doesn't have to be. Yeah, I get that, but at the same time, I coached for a ladies team over here, and there was a UEFA A licensed coach, and I was making the point that communication with your team is quite important, and he said no, it's one of the least important things. And I said, that's fair enough when you're at a certain level, like say a captain in the championship, you're going to know where your players are meant to be and this and that. But at lower league, you need to be talking. Even I'd even encourage it to the point of shouting at your fucking right and left back to track if you're a centre back. You know, like you said,
and holding the line, getting them up. You know, you've got to be able to listen to the calls, and you've also got to be able, you know, if ball's up in air, you've got to be able to listen to the calls, and somebody's got to get the name on it and then go meet it, and you know whatever else. And I think that there is a need for it. And I'm not a UEFA A coach by any stretch or anything like that, but I think so the point is fair. You don't have to be a captain that shouts and balls, but you also need vocal people in your team, even if it's not your captain, to make the difference when things aren't going right, and to tell people where they're going wrong, and to tell people, you know, to reinforce the message from the manager that they've been training against, and that sort of thing. You know, if you look at, I mean, I never thought he should have been captain. I thought he was a woeful captain, but it did improve his game. When David Beckham captained England, I thought that took his game to the next level, but I didn't think he was a particularly good captain because he was a lead by example. And I no, I'm going to tell you what to do, because that's exactly what... It will not surprise you to find that I was a vocal captain.
No, it won't. It won't. And I'd imagine you were sounding more and more like Mickey Mouse every other Sunday or Monday whenever you'd be playing, which is phenomenal. That would be absolutely quality. Training on Tuesday with Mickey Mouse. Nah.
No, it's typically back by then, but no, on a Sunday... When I were having a kick about with my mates, having a side and whatever else, I never had a voice because it had ruined it on the Saturday and then the Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's normal though. They should be ruining your vocal cords like that. Thanks for your comment there, Scoob, man. We've got Owen in the chat. Owen Gain, how you doing, Owen? Please, can Bamford leave in January? You can get a decent replacement for his wages.
He's going nowhere, pal. He's going nowhere.
Let's be honest. He's on them wages, and he knows he's going to be needed. He knows at some point, like last year, when we were struggling for a few goals just around the Christmas period, came in for the FA Cup, and it was damn near impossible to shoehorn him out of the team at that point. So I don't think he's going anywhere.
And then we went on an amazing run with him up front.
There you go. Swings and roundabouts with Patrick, I think.
That's it. No, he's going nowhere.
Nah. Nigel Bitchell, how you doing, Nigel? Hi, chaps. I think we have missed Rads and his quality. He was a game changer before he got injured.
I don't know. I started this one because I'm not sure who he's on about, and I needed to know because he's saying we've missed Rads. Ramazani, maybe. Yeah. That would make more sense than Rads.
Yeah. Still a little
I don't
bit
think we've missed Rads in the slightest.
No, I don't think so either, man. And I don't think any of our Twitter handles have missed him either, which is great. But yeah, I think, like I mentioned yesterday, he came on. I think he was wasted in the 10 role, personally. I think he should have just been stuck out wide on the right, Dan James to come off because he was lagging. There wasn't the energy that he had on Wednesday night. I don't know, was it because he's just coming back from injury and maybe that was too much for him, perhaps. But I think Ramazani needs to be stuck out on the right and just let him have at any fullback, and he will make an absolute tit of them, and we've seen that already. So hopefully that happens down the line, Nige. And got Owen in again. Who else plays in 10 if Aronson is rested?
Anyone.
I'm saying Nanto for me personally.
Anyone at all.
Yeah.
Karl, you can do it.
Yeah, man.
Get
Give
Jay
me
to
10
do it.
roll. I'll do
Smarty.
it. Man. I'll do it.
Smarty's got a big Swede. Put him in there. He'll win some headers.
I just need to get
I
my
don't
cardiovascular
care.
up.
Joffrey, put Joffrey in there. I know he's injured again, but never mind.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
Joffrey in. Paddy
Put
could
him
do
in
it better. Joseph could do it better. Pirro could do
about
it.
you?
I don't think any of them are tens, but they could all do the job better.
So, Owen, if you're new to the channel, Gilly fucking hates Aronson. So, more of
No,
those questions
he's a
so I can
nice
get
kid.
wound up.
He's a nice kid. He's just not a footballer.
Oh, that's what I mean. Like, you don't hate him as a person, just as a
Yeah.
footballer. Yeah. Sorry, I'll make that clear next
It's
time.
not the way that Bryn feels about Bamford or Cooper.
Yeah.
He genuinely hates the individual.
More of them questions, Owen. Good man. You saw what it does to the poor chap. And before we get on to the last one, Skip is in the comments. Is getting experience number 10 in Jan a must, although it's going to be tough and expensive. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, it
Don't
is.
know what.
And yes, it is.
Don't know who, what, when, how, where we get it, but it is expensive. Look, we've heard.
Is it unlikely we get Hamer if we go back in for him?
Well, they said 18 million. I think if you just chuck 20 million at them and just go, look, there's 20 million.
It significantly weakens them,
Yeah.
and it significantly betters us to play him over Aronson. It's such a massive difference to them and to us. It feels like it's worth it.
Do you know as well now, in the summertime, I think we were trying to have their pants down with the price we were offering because they were still in a bit of a financial limbo. But they've recently been taken over by apparently wealthy Americans. So
Yeah, but we know how that feels. That's not to the betterment of the squad necessarily.
that is true. That is true. But they might not be as desperate, let's say, for 20 mil as they probably would have been in August when we tried to do them one. But yeah, I think a number 10 in January is probably a must now at this stage. And I heard rumours that we were looking at Carvalho. That was at Liverpool. He's now at Brentford. Apparently not fitting in there at all. Oh, there you go. I didn't see that.
Fabulous Carvalho. Is that Fabio Carvalho's cousin?
It must be.
I think that's it's a typo. Oh no, he's followed it up. There you go.
Fabio. Oh, there you go. Yeah, nice one.
Carvalho would play alongside Marvelous and Nakumbi.
Yeah, that's it. Fabulous and marvelous at the same time. I think that's
Carvalho would be a shout.
Yeah, apparently not fitting in as well as he thought he might at Brentford, so we'll have to wait and see. He definitely added to Hull City when he went there, which that was just a
He didn't do that much except score goals, but he wasn't being asked to play in the 10, he was playing up front. And if you're playing up front and you're not adding anything but goals, but you're adding a lot of them, that's actually all right, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think if we have people that can be set up to score goals, then he could be a valuable number 10, you know. Right, so before we finish, Gilly, Nigel D is in the comments here. I've started this one, right? Nige wants your opinion. Gilly, what leaders do we have on the pitch? We're too quiet on the pitch.
It's a fair shout, isn't it? We covered a bit of this. I think if you look at the lineup that we have, I think Struijk and Rodon to a certain extent, and Tanaka and Rothwell, they're all players that have a good work ethic, that do the right things or try to do the right things. I think they're all lead by example rather than vocal, driving the team forward, calling people out, tearing strips off them when they're needed. I think Gilavogi is the one that I've seen has shown the actual leadership. Not just a lead by example, but the professionalism to go, whoa, that's not right. Even when they're doing the warm-ups, I mentioned on one of the previous pods, he absolutely tore strips off two of the young lads. And then when they were done with the warm-ups, when they were walking off, he put his arm around them both and went, that was good, you improved it. You could see that he was giving that message. And I think it's important. You look at Pirro, he's a passive player. You can't knock his output at the moment because his goals and assists for the season so far are up there with anybody else at this level. Aronson's a passive player. He's not a leader. He's not somebody that is built in that mould. It's just not in him. Nonto's another one. James is another one. They are quiet players. They do what they do and they do it well, and that's it. That's Bogle's not a leader. Firpo's not a leader. We are devoid of that. And, it's such a massive impact not having Ampadu in there doing that, because he's great. I love Ampadu, and he's a shithouse, and he's a leader, and, he'll get under the skin of the opposition, and he'll give them shit. He'll put in a big tackle. He'll tell people where they're wrong. He's what we needed in there. He's the perfect foil for the team as a captain, even when he's not playing at centre-back, and I do prefer a centre-back. So I think there is definitely an element there that I think that's one of the reasons we went for Gilavogi, not just because we were light in midfield with both Gruev and Ampadu injured, but because he's got experience and he's got that mentality and that elite sportsmanship kind of approach to things. I think we do need more of that. I think we might be looking for a unicorn, but if you can bring in a 10 that's going to chip in with some goals, but he's going to lay on chances for other people and he's going to dictate play, the pace of the game, the way that we approach, funnel the chances through, see the runners go off them and have a bit of experience about them, fantastic. Whether you can get all of that in one player at this level, at this time, in the January transfer window that's always difficult, that's where they're going to earn the money. Yeah,
that's exactly it. Just going, thanks for that, Gilly, appreciate it, man. Mikey MK has come in when we're talking about number 10s. There has been rumours of McAtee floating about as well. From what I've seen of him, very talented player. Not sure if he's the experienced number 10 that we kind of need, rather than just getting a number 10 for the future. So, don't know, we'll have to watch this space in January. I think they should have something lined up pretty soon into January. You'd hope they'd get that sorted. So look, Gilly, I did say at the start we'd try and make it a short one. We've done an hour and 6 minutes again. So have you anything that you maybe want to say before we finish up, Gilly, or is there
just a reminder around the AMC stuff? So every Wednesday evening, meet at 5:45 for a 6 p.m. start for the Recovery Runners group run. So they meet at the Recovery Academy on Westfield Road in Woodhouse. There's loads of parking outside. One group do a 5K and the other just do a jog and walking in between with no experience needed. And the monthly walk and talk is on New Year's Eve this time. That's at Temple Newsom Park. Meet at 11 a.m. outside the tea rooms. And just a reminder, there are multiple AMC venues across Leeds. They meet every Monday from 7 till 9, barring bank holidays. There's always a brew available and a bit of a chat. For all details, go and look on the Andy's Man Club Leeds Facebook page.
Excellent stuff. Thanks for that, Gilly. So basically we're back again on Tuesday with the main pod. I get a treble dose of me now this week. So it's Jay hosting and me and you joining them again, Gilly. So essentially Jay will be talking to himself about the game for the first 20 minutes of the pod. We might point and laugh at him for a little bit while he tries to struggle through it, and we don't give any input because we've done an hour and 10 minutes of it.
And one person did get some points from the Predictions League.
Oh shit! Okay, that must be negative to talk about. So we'll discuss that on Tuesday at 8:30 normal time. But Gilly, thanks for joining me, man. And
my pleasure.
See you
As
Tuesday.
always.
Yeah.
See you soon.
See you Tuesday.